it just got overblown from the beginning to where he was like Heisman level status, kind of like you said. If they just would have given him a chance from the beginning to just play instead of making him out to be the savior or whatever they were doing, I still don't think he's what they were making him out to be. There was a lot of yards after catch on Saturday, starting from the very beginning. So his wide receivers were, racking up yards for him. But he is no doubt playing better than what he was at the beginning of the year. Because at the beginning of the year, it was pretty rough to watch. So maybe he's finding his stride a little bit, and not a bad thing for the Longhorns. I don't think they're as good as A&M this year, but it still wouldn't surprise me when A&M goes to Austin if either team wins. Like when you're in a rivalry game like that and it's in Austin and shit happens. So wouldn't surprise me either way. But that's about all I got on college. I think Texas is on bye this week, so they don't have a game, if I'm thinking right. And then they go to Georgia next week, and I think Georgia's going to beat them. We can talk more about that next week. But anyways, that's about all I got on college. Let's go ahead to some power rankings, and you can explain how we're going to do it if you want to.
Yeah, so when we started breaking down the power rankings and trying to, layer everybody on top of each other, this league makes it very difficult to really just try to figure out because we discussed this. This league and people's rosters change and the landscape changes every single week. And so it's kind of stupid to throw out a specific power ranking. So what we did is, but at this point in the season, there is a pretty good base of knowledge to know where these teams are going to end up. So what we did is we took all 14 teams and we put y'all into four tiers, four buckets, if you will, that kind of separates you out to let you know what our thoughts are on where we see your team, what status, and what your playoff hopes or future looks like. So, what you want to do? You want to start at the bottom or the top?
Let's start at the bottom.
All right. You want to go ahead and list off the what we're calling the bottom feeders, calling the
We put four teams in the bottom feeders, and it was kind of a combination of just looking at record, not thinking you can make it to the playoffs, and then just talent alone on your team, whether it was PF, just looking at your roster, whatever the case may be, to where we just don't think you're going to be able to compete and get into the playoffs this year. Those four teams are C Mike sitting at 1-8. Talk about a win at 3-6. Fly Dog at 3-6, and Stalin and Ballin at 4-5. I'll just touch real quick on each one. Mike's sitting at 1-8, so it was more his record. I'm still not like what's the words that I'm looking for. I like Mike's team better than the 1-8 record shows.
yeah,
I
yeah, it's
like
very deceiving.
I like now that Greg's team is back healthy and fully pieced together. I like his roster better than the 3-6 record shows. Schlydog, I think 3-6 is. I think Schlydog could be sitting at more like 2-7, or his record should maybe be a little bit worse. I'm not a big fan of his overall roster, and then I think the same with Stalin and Ballin. I don't know how. I don't know how you're going to finish out the year, Stall. We'll talk more about your starting lineup later when we predict this week's matchups. But this week's starting lineup for you, Stall, is pretty rough. You did squeak out the win last week, but I just 4-5. I know you're right on the cusp of the playoffs, but I just don't know if you're going to quite make it. You got anything else to add on those four teams?
No, I think you summed them up pretty good. But yeah, I do agree that I don't think like every time we try to pick matchups, I want to pick Greg every week because his team looks so good. And so I like his team and I do like Mike's team. And we thought we both liked it at the beginning of the year. So, just some tough luck. Just some wins fall the wrong way. And, I've faced that in a lot of leagues this year too. I think my team's good and pretty soon I see myself in a 3-4, 3-5 situation, what have you. So yeah, no, I think these deserve to be down here, unfortunately, and that's all I have to say.
It would not surprise me. I hope Mike still has his first pick for next year or for this upcoming draft. Because if he has the number one overall pick and he picks who I think is the number one player, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike finishes this year at like the worst record, and then turns around and is in the playoffs next year. I think his team is that good, and if you add a number one overall pick for this upcoming rookie draft, I think that he could be in the playoffs next year. That's how much I like his roster.
Yeah, cool.
Let's
We
move
will.
to do you want to touch do you want to go to the top now because we've really had the bottom was easy to pick out, the top was easy to pick out, and then we struggle with the middle a little bit. Or we can go to the middle, however you want to do it.
No, that's fine. We can go ahead and we can square out the top. So the top we had Louis, we had Money Muscle, and we had Tidal Wave as our top three. We had a pretty clear cut three team top tier um, title contending tier that we felt was pretty locked in. These teams just put up points. They all have good records, so 6-3 for Tidal Wave, Money Muscle at 7-2, and Team Louis at 7-2, and they just put up so many points every single week. They're always blowing people out of the water. They're putting up so many points, and they're even with couple injuries, like say Malik Neighbors off Tidal Wave. Their teams have remained pretty healthy, and they're pretty got good depth. Um, and then you see, like we just discussed in Louis, with like the way things are falling him, he just keeps adding pieces. He got Rasheed Rice back. Puka Nakua is there, and now he gets an uptick in Jacoby Myers, Rasheed Shaheed. So yeah, just three teams. I just think there's no problem them getting to playoffs. There's no problem them making it through playoffs to where they get at least top four finish.
Yeah, I don't think either of us would be surprised if the winner of the championship this year is either of those three teams. I think that's what we're trying to say here. I'm not going to go into any more, except I want to ask you how if you could pick or if you could order those three teams in that top tier as far as who do you think is one, two, three? I think Zoke is Money Muscle is definitely three,
He's three for sure.
only for the fact of Jaden Daniels. I think that's a blow. Even he has Marcus Mariota to fill in, but that's not the same. And then I was really hoping for his sake, not really for his sake, but if I was him, you would have hoped that Tyrone Tracy would have been much more of the lead dog there in New York after Scatterboo, because if he was, that's a good enough offense now to where Tyrone Tracy could have provided a boost. But it's not that Tyrone Tracy isn't going to put up some points, but just maybe not as much as we originally thought when Scatterboo went down. So I think Money Muscle is three. The other
Titles,
two, it's a toss. It's a
yeah.
toss up for me.
So I'm gonna take Louis up top, and then I'm gonna put Tidal Wave at number two, only because when I look at Tidal Wave, and like I know he puts up points every week and he's got some good players, but a lot of his players are they've been producing due to straight up like scenario what's the word I'm looking for? Like opportunity. And so like Kamani Vidal, I don't know if that holds up the rest of the season. I don't know if Rico Dowdle holds up the rest of the season, especially with an injury. Like he could flip flop. He could get injured and Chuba could take his spot back. Um,
Well,
you
it was
know,
kind of like the Jordan Mason thing. He had Jordan Mason that he could roll out there for a while, but now
yeah.
Aaron Jones.
And so
So
he's
he
his
he
it's
he
been
was
very
taking it. His players were
fortunate.
taking advantage of their opportunities while they
Yeah.
lasted. I don't know if
Whereas
that can.
Whereas Louis, his top dogs with, Puka and Rasheed and like all that, like those are set in stone. Those are not going
Yeah,
anywhere.
they're
So
established. They're established. They're not banking on trying to stay established. It's a toss up for me. I think you make a good point there, but I would have those two above Money Muscle. I think Money Muscle slides in third behind those two in that top tier. So, but definitely championship contenders. I think they lead the bunch, right? They lead the entire pack right now. Record proves it. PF proves it. And just if you look their rosters up and down, they're loaded.
cool. Let's go ahead and we'll just divide these the playoff dark horses in tier two and the long shots in tier three. Um, and we'll go ahead and just list them off. So in tier two, we decided that in that group should be um, Goon Slick,
Merch.
Merch, myself, and Mason. And the tier three should be Pigskin Princess, you, and Dino. And that, yeah, that comes out to their seven.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So all of those were pretty, we thought pretty, we agreed on everybody to put in two and three. The only one we had a little difficulty was Mason is splitting hairs right there between them. We went ahead and dumped you, Mason, into tier two just off of the screenshot of your starting roster. If, literally, if I tried to pick a fantasy team like 2 years ago, I couldn't come up with a better team than that, like right there. Um, and you've had some injuries, you've kind of fallen off a little bit, but we're just going off for sheer talent to put you in two instead of three. But you are definitely sitting on the fence post.
I think we had a little bit of difficulty splitting these tiers up because it's the middle, and we have, I don't know the exact number, but there's a lot of teams sitting at 5-4, 4-5, right on the cusp of the playoffs. And I think that's kind of where we're, trying to decide who's going to sneak in the playoffs and give themselves a chance to make a run, and then who's going to be barely on the outside, maybe looking in. I don't think any of the teams that we listed in these middle, I think they're in the middle for a reason. They're just a notch below the upper tier, and then they're clearly above the bottom tier. So it just made sense to put them in the middle. I think there's an argument that could be made to flip maybe a team from tier two to tier three or tier three to tier two. I think you could if somebody came up to you and said, this team should be here, it could be argued. I think it's that close, but that's kind of just what we decided for now. I think in tier two, I would put. We talked about this earlier. We like the way your team is coming together. I don't like the way my team is coming together, especially with running backs. I think in tier two, I would probably put at this point, I would put merch and Scat Pack maybe above you and Mason.
I think I like that. Merch, then
That would
Scat,
be
then
tier.
me, then Mason.
Yeah, I think merch and Scat could be 4-5, and then you and Mason could be 6-7.
6, 7. I don't know why the kids say that,
Mm-hmm.
but
And then, yeah, and then
and
in
then
the
tier
third
three.
tier, I think me and Alyssa are maybe a notch above Dean. I don't know. I
Dean's
think we're all
hard
pretty even.
because we keep
Dean is hard. Just when we thought we had him figured out, he.
yeah. Um yeah, I mean I'm trying to figure out where I would place y'all. I mean, I think I'll just go with you at the top just because Lamar is such a difference maker. He literally is like, you always have a shot. And so I'll probably just go ahead and put you at the top, especially, yeah, I'll probably do that. And then I will between Dino and Alyssa.
You know what? It's hard to do power rankings because I think I agree with that, but Alyssa just beat me last week. And so it's kind of like if you look at recent results, she should be above me, but that doesn't. But I had a Buka and Devontae Smith on bye, so does that make a difference? In last week's
Yeah.
results, so it's hard to
I'm gonna,
it's hard to do exact power rankings. I think that's why tiering it up was easier.
I'm actually gonna go with Dino, who is at 4 and 5 over Alyssa, who's 5 and 4, strictly because again, kind of like Mason, if you look at his team, like you like all of his players, and he's finding some good opportunity. Like Debo Samuel is once again the only receiver, even if it is Marcus Mariota. Alec Pierce is a great flex to have these days. Like he's coming along. We talked about Sam Darnold getting even more weapons to throw the ball to, so he's got that going for him. And then he might have some other people in there. And Alyssa after after her usual starting roster, it gets a little ugly. There's nobody really that she might be able to count on heading down the road. So, and we just discussed how difficult those matchups are for the Cowboys. I mean, Dak Prescott has a tough road ahead to finish the year. So, I think that's I think that's why I'll put Alyssa at the bottom of that group.
Also, why has Dak and the offense struggled? Not to change the subject, but I think we kind of closed out on the tiers there. Why is thinking about the Cowboys? Why is Dak and the Cowboys offense struggle more that CD has been back in the past couple of weeks? That's been strange. You would have thought they
Well,
would have.
yeah, I mean they cruised to a win when he got back, right? Am I
How many
remembering that
weeks
right?
has he been back?
Two or three?
So they lost against Arizona and they lost against Denver. And they struggled in both. Was he back the week before when they won against? I don't know
Yes.
who they won against.
Yes, because he had a long like walk-in touchdown.
Okay,
I don't
they
remember who it was.
were. Let's see. They beat the Commanders, and he was back then.
Yeah, he was
Yeah, he
back,
was back.
and so they beat them. Denver is like their defense is so good, like it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. And then Arizona, I mean, their defense isn't terrible. I don't know, like they shouldn't have struggled like they did, but they did. I mean, Arizona's defense is like it's not bad at all. It's actually pretty good. So I don't know who the Cowboys play next week when they get off, back from bye. Oh, they play the
Raiders.
Raiders.
The Raiders.
So again, kind of like Denver, but the opposite. You won't really get a really
Yeah.
good
The
feel because
only
they
thing
should
is,
roll.
it could be a get right game to where they get their groove back, and then hopefully carry that into a better or against a better defense the following week. So, anyways, I got us off track there, but I think that getting back to the tiers, I think that separates everybody pretty good in the categories and kind of gives you an idea of where we think you are, whether it's a championship contender or definitely not a championship contender, or you have a shot and maybe need a few things to fall your way to, you know, get back up to the top or whatever it may be. So I think that was a way better way to do it than go individual number by number. It just was easier to do the tiers. So you got anything else to add on the tiers, or you want to
No,
jump into?
I think I'm good to go. All
Also, I
right.
just thought of before we jump into next week, another cool thing coming up. I just got random thoughts jumping in my head. We are oh so close to, I guess, when is it? Like Thanksgiving week, I guess, is coming up in a few weeks, and that's when it's going to
Mhm.
be like a Thursday game or like three Thursday games, a Black Friday game. I don't know if they got games on what they all got, but we're oh so close to, you know, just a great time of the year with football, whether it's going to be college games or, getting closer to the playoff games in college or the NFL heating up down the stretch for the playoff run and games basically every day of the week. So getting to a good time of the year here, and we're getting to more towards the end of the fantasy football season. So it's getting down to crunch time. If you're on the cusp of the playoffs, you need to go ahead and make some good decisions this week because it's time to start. It's time to start getting serious and trying to get a few wins in a row so you can get to the playoffs. Why is my screen glitching out on me? Do you see that or not?
Yeah, I see it. See it. No, it'll be a good week around Thanksgiving. Eating some good food, watch some football, pretending like I'm watching my kids.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Love my kid. We can get it all
Speaking
done.
of, we need to get on this because I'm going to quit blabbing. We got 20 minutes. You're home alone with the kid. If he starts crying, we're going to have to cut the matchup prediction short. So we got to get this. We got to get this
This,
going and wrapped up.
this is true. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to those matchup predictions. While I pull it up, you want to go ahead and give our current record?
You had a 4-3 week last week. I had a rough 2-5 week. That makes you sit at 33. No, 35 and 28, and I'm sitting at 33 and 31. So you got a 2 game lead on me after the uh, results from last week. We're both over 500, but you have a 2 game lead over me.
Cool. All right. Well, you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right. My matchup versus Pigskin Princess. I'm back on the me train this week. I have me pulling out a win. More so about it's more about Alyssa not being able to field a complete roster than it is about my confidence in my own team. She is down a quarterback. That goes on by. She's also down a tight end and a couple receivers. So she has Johnny Smith moving to tight end, and she fixed her roster, but she currently has Kayshawn Booty in. I don't think he plays this week, so Jordan Addison will pop up, and she has to already play the likes of Kenny Gainwell and Dylan Sampson, and she'll probably have to throw in somebody else whenever Booty decides that he's done with that hamstring. So she'll probably be playing maybe Adonai Mitchell with his new role in Cleveland. So yeah, I don't want to touch like a lot on mine. I'm just looking across the board. This is really why I picked up Davis Mills because I know that he'll probably outscore three or four of the people that she's going to have to play this week. So
I see what you did now. I see what you did. Smart move on your part. I think bye week hits her really hard. Man, I wish she had this lineup against me last week. I don't have anything else to add. You're getting her at a good time with all her buys, and you really have all your guys playing for the most part, it looks like, and are going to be just fine. So I got you. I'm not sure it's particularly close. I don't think it's a huge blowout, but I think you got a comfortable win coming this week.
cool. We'll move on to your matchup versus Money Muscle. And he hasn't quite set up his lineup yet, but I do have Money Muscle edging you out this week. Um, and I can't remember exactly why. I mean, his team has been rolling. Um, and I think that a lot of his players are going to be in some shooting matchups. I think that Seattle versus Arizona could become a pretty good game. He's got Brock Bowers back, which even against the likes of Denver, he'll still put up good points. And you're struggling still at running back. And I mean, if Rico Dowdle misses, that is going to be maybe what determines if you win this week or not, if Chuba gets the workload. But yeah, I've got Money Muscle.
What did Rico? Did he didn't practice today, or he was on the side or something? But they act like he's
Maybe.
going to play. They act like he's going to play. I don't really know who else to put in at running back. Maybe Ramondre out again, so I put in this Jennings dude and hope he splits the carries with Henderson. I wish Saquon would have been out. Tank Bigsby would have been a hell of a play this week. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I'm stuck at running back. I am catching Money Muscle at a good time. As much as we put him in the top tier, Jane Daniels is out, so Marcus Mariota plays. Patrick Mahomes is on bye. He's starting Tyrone Tracy, which we talked about him not getting all the looks. He has DeAndre Swift on his bench, but it's Monangai. You know, I'm catching him at a good time, but I don't know if I can beat him. So I'm gonna take Money Muscle. It's kind of one of those things where I'm picking against myself, hedging a little bit, but I am catching him at a good time. So I got a chance here. If I was catching him at full strength, I wouldn't like my odds.
Yeah.
So I'll give myself a chance, but I still think he wins, which is disappointing because I've dropped three in a row. We'll see.
Happens. All right, next matchup we have Merch Luck versus Talk About a Win. I am going to go with Merch Luck. Nico Collins, like we said, he's going to have Davis Mills throwing the ball, so that kind of cuts off his ceiling. Um, Bryce Young is Bryce Young, as well as JJ McCarthy is going up against that Baltimore defense that looks like it's making a turnaround. And then, Ashton Genty going against that Denver defense. It's just not looking pretty. So I think Merch, I don't, we'll see what kind of score he puts up, but I think it's enough to take down Greg.
I'm actually going to go with Greg this week. I'm gonna go with Taco Man.
Taco
I'm gonna
Man.
go with the Taco Man. I think James Cook did not practice today.
There's that.
I know Mark has got Ty Johnson on his bench, but it's not the same as having James Cook in your lineup. Even if James Cook plays, is he going to get his full workload? Maybe they give him a few carries off because they're at Miami, so they should be beating the doors off of Miami. Do they not push James Cook as much? John Tucker actually got a sneaky amount of the workload in Tampa before their bye compared to Rashad White. So I don't know. Maybe that's more of a split workload there. Bucky doesn't look like he's playing this week, so it's Rashad White and Sean Tucker. So there's just what we talked about with Greg's lineup. It's not a bad lineup, and I think he could put up a decent amount of points this week. Nico Collins, even though his upside is capped with Davis Mills at quarterback, Davis Mills did look his way and found him a few times last week, and so I'm gonna go with Gregory. I'm gonna go
I
with
like it.
I'm gonna go with Mr. Taco Man in a close one, in a real close one. Merch has to start two tight ends. Merch is starting two tight ends. He's starting his two Chargers wide receivers. That was another thing. So the Chargers play the Steelers this week, and the Steelers just shut down the Danny Dimes and the Colts. Could it be the same on Sunday Night Football to where the Steelers D has found their groove and makes it a struggle for that Chargers offense a little bit? Could be a possibility, maybe not, but I still got Greg.
I like it. Let's go ahead and go to the next matchup, Tidal Wave versus Scat Pack. I think that this is going to be a super close one. I do think Tidal Wave edges out. And of course, this is all, without knowing what these injuries, all these questionable tags on all these players are going to be. But as is, I do think that Tidal Wave pulls it out. Brees Hall for Scat Pack goes against that Cleveland defense. And that's kind of the deciding factor for me. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Tidal Wave to edge him out.
I'm going title. I think it's high scoring. I think it's close. I think title edges them out. We don't know what we're going to get from Brees Hall, not just because of the tough Cleveland defense, but just because after this past week, McNichols is a scary play after this past week. I don't know. Is AJ Brown going to play? Let's see here. Oh, AJ Brown will most likely play, I would assume. But Scat is starting two tight ends. He's also starting the Herbert Allen stack going against that Pittsburgh defense. So I think he's going to put up points, but just maybe can't quite keep up with the tidal wave powerhouse that has been putting up points here recently, even though he had a little bit of a down week last week. So I got title in a close, high scoring one. I lost my partner. For once, I am on my own. This could get really interesting. I have no clue what order his screen is in, so I'm going to take a look at. I'm going to go with the easy matchup here that I think should be an easy one to pick. Stalin and Ballin versus Team Mason. We touched on Stalin and Ballin enough during the power rankings, the tier power rankings, that the lineup just is not up to standard to be competing even after a win this past week. I think we like Mason's roster overall. There's a lot to like when you look at his roster, just the firepower that he, could have on any given week. So I think he overtakes Stalin and Ballin, and I don't think it's particularly close. When you're starting Trevor Etienne, not Travis Etienne, Trevor Etienne, when you are starting DeMercado, yes, he had a few points last week. When you are starting not one, not two, but three tight ends, Colston Loveland, Dalton Kincaid, and TJ Hawkinson. I just don't think it's a recipe for success. I think Mason just overtakes Stalin and Ballin this week in a matchup that is not particularly close. I'm sure glad to have you back. I cannot manage on my own.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take Mason over Stalling and Ball as well. And it looks like I missed a matchup.
No,
And
mine is in a different order. I picked the easy one while you were gone.
okay, I do have Mason over Stalling and Ball as well. So um,
You take for
but
granted when you have a good uh, lead co-host
man,
that can pretty much
I
carry you through the weight of the
do my
show.
best.
Like I just sit over here and blab. I don't make it flow
Well,
good. So I
without going too far off track, speaking of blab, I've had like a 3 day gut bomb, and that prairie dog he wasn't going back in his hole.
okay. No, I thought you had a kid to check on.
Oh no, I just took
You had a
the
horse to check on.
I took the fastest Duke of my life just then. That was wild.
You even wipe.
Anyways, oh, with two hands.
Yeah,
Uh,
you got to go back and wipe it again a little bit later after this
anyways,
8 minutes. Sneak back in and wipe some more.
all right. So let's go ahead and get it down. So C Mike versus Sly Dog. Um, let's go. I had these and I don't remember. I'm gonna go with C Mike to get his second win of the season.
I'm not going to touch too much on this because it's 1-8 versus 3-6. I picked Mike to win last week. I thought he was going to beat Stahl. That did not happen. Mike, I'm going to pick you again. Don't let us down again for a second week in a row. Get your second win of the year. And yeah, it's mainly because just when you look at Mike's team, we think it's better than what a 1-8 record shows, and we just don't think Schley's team is maybe even as good as what a 3-6 record shows. He has to start Tez Johnson. Not a bad play though. Tez has showed some potential. Has to start Michael Wilson, Keon Coleman. So yeah, I got Mike. I got Mike over Schlydog.
All right, and that takes us to our last matchup, which is
I
Louis
think we might have
versus.
two left. Actually, I think we might have
Uh,
two left.
did I
I
miss
think
one?
who were you about to say? Or no, maybe we have touched them all.
I think we touched them all. You skipped one. We went back. We did Merch versus Greg. We did ours.
We did ours. We did. Yeah, we
We
did,
did
didn't we? Go ahead.
Tidal
You're
Wave.
right.
Yeah. So
See,
Dino
yeah.
versus Louis. Um, you know, this is tough. It looks like Louis might be, if he's set his lineup already, that he might be trusting the likes of Jacoby Myers over Geno Smith versus that Denver defense. I don't really blame him that much for that move. Um, and so this is a tough one. I don't. If hopefully Puka plays, man, it's tough. But let's go somewhere different. Let's just say Dean wins this one.
Rasheed Rice being on bye is a huge blow. He's starting two tight ends. He's starting Harold Fannin and Mark Andrews. As many people as starting two tight ends, maybe I need to start doing that.
Me too.
Maybe it's not as bad of a situation as we make it out to be. I guess Dean's pretty much not being affected by buys that much the way it looks. Yeah, he's got all his guys, whereas Jay Louie is being affected by the Rasheed Rice buy. And that's basically it, though. But that is a huge blow. We ranked Jay Louie in the top tier, Dean in the third tier. We said Jay Louie is our favorite to probably win the championship as of now.
Probably gonna stick behind it.
I got to stick behind it. I gotta go with what we just preached. He's gonna find a way to get it done this week. And every time we pick Dean, he lets us down and loses. Maybe Dean will appreciate when we pick if I pick against him because he'll probably end up winning. So I got Jay Louie. I'm gonna go with the number one guy that we just talked about. So Jay Louie over Dean.
Cool. All right. Well, that does all of our predictions. I guess all that's left is some bold ones. And so we can throw out some some bold predictions if you want. I told you earlier, I usually try to do some research, try to come up with a an educated guess on my first TD of the Thursday night game. I did not do that this week. So I'm just going to do something new. Plus, it very well could happen, but I'm going to go with the Denver DST is going to be the first TD of the game tomorrow night. Gino is going to either throw a pick six or fumble it somehow, and that Denver D is playing at home, and that's going to be the first score of the game.
That is an interesting pick that actually makes a lot of sense. I'm going with the Broncos scoring the first touchdown of the game, and I think it's going to be. I would like to see the odds on this, but he's scoring a lot of touchdowns here for him recently, even
Oh
on
Lord,
limited touches. I think
let's see
RJ
it.
Harvey catches it. I think RJ Harvey catches a touchdown on the first drive.
That's better. That's better than I thought you were going to say.
Who'd you think?
Pat Bryant.
Oh, Patty B. I wonder how many snaps he got this past week. I didn't pay attention to his stat line this past week. I didn't even look what
Is
it was.
it's going up. It's doing it. So
It's
um
not that they're giving RJ Harvey more touches than Dobbins, but he's getting some pretty valuable touches and he's turning them into touchdowns. So he scored 4 touchdowns the past 2 weeks. He had three last week and then or three 2 weeks ago and then one this past week. So I think he could have a little swing pass out of the backfield, takes it in for the first touchdown of the night. I think that's a blowout tomorrow night. I think, speaking of RJ Harvey, I think he could have a big game overall, him and Dobbins. Dobbins early. I think they could get Harvey a lot of touches late because I think they're blowing him out and they're going to lean on the run game then. And then Harvey could get a lot of mop up duty later in the game. So just a gut feeling. I guess that could be a bold prediction, one of my bold predictions. You got anything else? Oh,
dude, I don't. I was playing Brock Marburger this week today. I came fully unprepared. But I mean, I Sunday night, the Lions versus Eagles, that should be a pretty damn fun game. I don't know, let's say AJ Brown sits out another week and let's throw a BFF bet out there that Jahan Dotson will get 100 yards and a score.
oh God, that's bold. Oh boy, that is a
We
that's
can
a
only
that's a,
hope.
that's a yeah. I don't really know what else I want to throw out there. I think I'm gonna just
Ride it.
I guess the main the main thing I touched on a lot whenever we predicted was that the Chargers offense could struggle against the Steelers defense. So I think you in a normally potent Chargers offense, I think that the Chargers offense is usually potent, but I think they might have a little bit of a down week and it could affect some of the Chargers guys. So I guess I'm not going to go into details, but that would be my other just kind of statement that I want to throw out there. So we got less than a minute. I guess if we're that's all we're going to throw out there for the
I think
bold
we're good.
predictions. We can
All
wrap it up.
right. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Here's to a good week 10 for everybody. And stay warm out there.
Adios.